All right, settle in, everyone. Frank Strickland with Hidden History. Get ready for a story you probably won't find in your high school textbooks. This is a story about good intentions gone terribly wrong, about a nation's noble experiment, and about the chilling reality behind the headlines. It's about Prohibition. You know the story, or you think you know it. The Roaring Twenties, flappers and speakeasies, Eliot Ness and Al Capone. But there's a forgotten chapter, one that drips with irony and the bitter taste of poison. Our story begins with a quiet man, named Andrew W. Mellon. Now, Mellon wasn't your typical politician. He was a titan of industry, a financial wizard, one of the richest men in America. Banking, oil, aluminum, he had his fingers in everything. And in 1921, he became Secretary of the Treasury, serving under three presidents, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover. His philosophy was simple: cut taxes, slash debt, shrink government. He believed in enterprise, in the free market, in the idea that if you let the rich get richer, prosperity would trickle down to everyone. A shrewd, calculating man, not a moral crusader. But duty called. And duty in this era meant enforcing the 18th Amendment. Prohibition, the grand experiment to dry up America. Mellon, though perhaps privately skeptical, was the man in charge of the Treasury Department's Prohibition Bureau. Running parallel to Mellon was a different kind of titan, a man fueled by fervent conviction, by a childhood incident that scarred his soul, and by an unshakable belief in the evils of drink. His name was Wayne B. Wheeler. This was the architect of Wheelerism, the political mastermind behind the Anti-Saloon League. He was relentless, a man who wouldn't compromise, who knew how to twist arms and bend politicians to his will. It was Wheeler who largely drafted the Volstead Act, the very law that put teeth into Prohibition. President Woodrow Wilson actually vetoed it back in 1919, but Congress, under Wheeler's fierce influence, simply overrode the veto. The law was on the books, and then came the problem. America was dry on paper, but wet in practice. Bootleggers were everywhere, resourceful and defiant. Their secret? Industrial alcohol. Legally produced for things like fuel and perfumes, but easily diverted. It was denatured, sure, mixed with additives to make it undrinkable. But these resourceful criminals, they'd found ways to recondition it, to filter out the nasties and sell it as bathtub gin, as rot-gut whiskey. And here's where the story takes its chilling turn. Frustrated by this endless cat-and-mouse game, and spurred on by the unyielding demands of men like Wheeler, the Prohibition Bureau made a decision, a deliberate decision. They would escalate the denaturing. They would make the alcohol so poisonous, so lethal, that no one, not even the most desperate bootlegger, could make it drinkable. They ordered manufacturers to add methanol, or wood alcohol, along with other vile chemicals like pyridine and benzene. This wasn't an accident. This was a strategic move, a government-sanctioned chemical warfare against its own citizens. The motivation? From Mellon's perspective, it was about enforcing the law. It was about stopping the illicit trade. From Wheeler's perspective, it was about moral purity. He famously declared that the government was under no obligation to furnish people with alcohol that is drinkable when the Constitution forbids it. In his mind, those who drank the poison were deliberate suicides, deserving of their fate for breaking the sacred law. And the result? Thousands upon thousands died. Between 1926 and the repeal of Prohibition in 1933, an estimated 10,000 to 50,000 Americans died from consuming this poisoned alcohol. Blindness, paralysis, agonizing deaths, all because the government decided the ends justified the means. Doctors like New York City's chief medical examiner Charles Norris screamed in outrage, calling it our national experiment in extermination. But their pleas fell on deaf ears in Washington. The official line remained, "It's the bootlegger's fault." It's a stark reminder that even with the best intentions, or at least the stated best intentions, power, combined with fervent belief and a lack of foresight, can lead to unspeakable tragedy. And now you know. Our forgotten history.